And I was thinking like
Oh
they
yes,
choose
yes.
everything. Hey, we're live. Yes. Good
We are
times.
live. We are live. So, welcome to the Window to Our Mind podcast number 11, Passport Bros. How are you, Gray?
I'm doing amazing, it's a Wednesday or something, and I'm here, and I'm talking to you. So, it's great. Good times. How about yourself, Multi? How you doing?
I'm doing great. And now it's been officially a full week that I work out every day. I feel better,
Hell
but
yeah.
tired. And I think that's the point of working
Yes.
out.
Well, it's gonna go away, but it's that good type of hurt. It's not like you just fell down a flight of stairs. It's like you did something good for yourself. But yeah, you're feeling it.
I agree.
And that's just gonna get better over time.
I hope so. What about you,
It
D
will.
Lord? How are you?
Well, been better. Odd week, but more stress in the house. So,
Mhm.
what can I
There are
say?
weeks like that.
It's a shame.
And people don't get back to me. Level 30 day.
I'm definitely one of those people. Sorry about that, sir.
It's okay.
I suck at
I
communicating.
understand entirely. We all have slumps. And
Things
plus, also
happen.
gray. I should tease for people. You know it is, since it is holiday season in every single game. But
Yeah.
It
We will have
Diablo
a-
has the XP event that I need to get Gray through because of his XP bonus. Also, you get to kill a beastman.
We will have Santa Claus skin, I can bet. Anyhow, I guess we can start to get right into that topic. And I decided to talk about that because I think it's a fascinating topic. It's very funny and interesting. So I bumped into that topic as I was watching Red Pillars early this year, last year. I don't know when exactly, but I was amazed on how people reacted to that trend. Um, so I guess we can start off with the first question. What is the passport bro gray?
So I was completely unfamiliar with this term until like 2 weeks ago when he kind of explained it to me. But it sounds like it's kind of like mail order bride, but kind of the opposite. Instead of bringing a bride in, you're essentially going to a country using your passport. I think that's where the name comes from. And then you're trying to select a mate or partner who has more traditional values, it would seem. But I don't know. I think that claim might be dubious, but that's kind of my understanding of it. But please correct me if I'm wrong.
You're right. Uh, what about you, D-Lord? Do you have another definition or do you want to expand on that?
I will say, you don't look very top G, sir. Okay, you don't get the reference. You don't look
No, I
very
didn't get the reference. Sorry.
Gray. You don't get it either.
I was muted, but no, I don't
Do you
understand.
know
I
what
am
being
of
a
limited
top G
understanding.
is?
I do know of one top G, or at least one who claims to be top G.
Are we thinking the same one?
I'm thinking so. Certain shaved head individual.
Well, he has brothers, and they recently spent time in jail.
Yeah, may or may not be accused of kidnapping
Trafficking
and
and other
or
bad, very
yeah,
bad things.
yeah,
Uh,
yeah. I think
yeah.
we're talking about the same G.
They Dan
So,
Miller?
no.
Okay.
Andrew Tate.
Oh, I see.
The one that got
Yeah.
radioed by Greta Thunberg. Um, who basically now has found herself sued, or basically there's an interesting story to her I'll have to share with you guys. It's very fun. No, but passport bros are. It's the belief that the women in your country are either gone sour or changed too much, and you go date abroad and come home with a foreign person because the concept of like we're all familiar with the song American Woman by Lenny Kravitz.
I was gonna say the Lenny Kravitz version or the Guess Who.
We can say Lenny Kravitz, but some
Okay.
could argue he didn't want to marry an American woman. But that's passport bro, you believe like, and I've seen some people who are really lucky. Sometimes you just come home with a person who wants to get a passport and then leave you. Like Multi can relate to Amarath. Amarath did that to a poor Canadian man.
Oh, I was going to say, why does he relate to her? But okay, I got you. I got you. Tentative connection.
He is
Oh
laughing.
my.
He is laughing because he probably doesn't know what I'm talking about.
I know Amaranth, and I can picture her like going out with someone just for the
She
passport.
fell in love supposedly with the Canadian man, got the citizenship and everything else, and then left him.
I get it.
And we could
Anyhow.
say, and by the way, Destiny could be a passport bro too because of his recent relationship failure. She's from Sweden, and she
Yeah,
stayed
but the
married.
whole idea is to be more traditional.
Come on,
So, like,
they-
they're in an open
I know.
relationship. I think there's
Just bear
nothing
with me
traditional
here.
about that.
She,
I understand what you're
she-
saying.
she, that's questionable. Maybe she just kept one other partner, but she
I-
stayed married 2 years, enough to get the passport and the citizenship to the U.S. and then is breaking up with Destiny.
I'm not so sure about that claim. So the whole reason why she's been in Sweden for like I don't know, I can't remember how many months is because there is sort of an issue with it, and they did have to kind of show something about it. But she has shown no desire to be in the U.S. I think the kind of the parallel would be more like a mail order bride or whatever, where usually like they come over, they divorce you, but then they stay here.
The Russian
Yeah, she has
kind,
chosen not to
yes.
do that. Yeah, and so I don't know. I think his whole situation and Melina's situation is a bit different than this. I don't think it's that this millionaire is not
I'm sure he is.
top whatever. I'm just saying, like, Destiny's a multimillionaire. He is in the top of his game in streaming. I don't think he is exactly struggling to find women in the U.S. and therefore went over. I see the parallels that you're saying, but I just think that their relationship's a little bit different.
Right.
I will never understand that open relationship aspect. I just don't like. Do you? But you're beyond my understanding. Like I do.
Sometimes you
as
don't
I
want to
said, but-
know. You really don't want to know.
Like, I mean, if she's pregnant, how do you know that's your kid? Like, you need to pass that DNA test. Like, how would you feel?
Well, I mean, there are DNA tests, and I don't know.
Look,
Maybe there will be better
look, Destiny
DNA.
is not exactly the proper open relationship person to go by. Like, if you go by the
I don't know. His open relationship lasted 2 years. Like,
because of,
I don't know how many. What is the pinnacle of open
I would
relationships?
say
Like, what
it
is the one that
was
everyone would
the early
strive
Jada
to?
Pinkett Smith Will Smith relationship. Then supposedly it went sour till she decided to go out, and Will just stayed there. And then she got pregnant with their daughter, and
So maybe that's not even
one of the
Will
daughters.
Smith's daughter. Any
Yeah, no, it is.
what is the passport, bro? Well, both of you answered it very well. It's someone that decides to go abroad and to try to find a mate outside of their bubble because they are not satisfied with their bubble. And this is interesting because I've seen a video out there. I wished I could like remember it so I could place it in the playlist, but there was that trend going on for women as well because apparently they are not satisfied either. So it's like, what is
Depends.
going on there?
Depends.
If nobody is satisfied, what's going on? What?
It actually really depends because if we're going by the passport bro, by the manosphere, it's 50-50. You could always do what Andrew Tate did, do the passport bro thing and get people to stay there, then occasionally bad things occur. They don't want to be with you.
Yeah.
Then again, there's a lot more bad here. That's why I reference him. Because he is generically the one they think of passport bros. I often find, like, the people who want to do this, they're soured by their pool or current pool. Like, to be fair, if your pool that you have to pull from is nothing but people who don't reflect your values, yeah. I know of a guy, he's deeply in love, found Asian woman fell in love with him. She's a little crazy, very bad. They are very traditional. There is a appeal to wanting to marry one. Which,
So is the tradition that you go to America with somebody else? Like, wouldn't they be a non-traditional person by definition? Just the fact that they would be willing to, date an expat and then move countries.
depends
I don't
on
know.
the.
Wouldn't
It
traditionally
really, it
you?
really, it really depends. Like if you go when people think dating abroad, they used to call it, yellow fever or whatever back in the day. But no,
But
actually, true. You laugh, but the concept is too. But sometimes it doesn't
Yeah,
work out because if you want to do this and you want to pursue a relationship, because let's say you're trying to go to Japan, woo somebody, there is entirely different standards there than anywhere else. You got to get past her family.
well, that's
She
what I
can
mean.
love
Like,
you, and you can do that. Some places are just very different and have different standards.
so I don't know. I've got, I guess, two questions. I understand we've got more questions going through, but so Tima, you were saying that it's more like the Andrew Tate types. From like the little bit of limited research I did, um, it seemed to be a whole bunch of women complaining that it was an issue with the black community, essentially going over and being passport bros. Is there like a racial divide in this, or does it seem to be
I
across the
wouldn't
board in the
say
manosphere?
I
that. I mean,
I
unless
think that
you're
I
could be
I
no first. I would.
I think there's an answer there. Like maybe a lot of black people want to go in a country like that, like a passport bro, but not necessarily going outside. If you know what I mean, like if you're from Africa or Haiti, maybe you want to leave that place because that's very dangerous. And I know that because I know a lot of black people that were from that place, and they're like, yeah, we left because there's always war, there's always conflict, it's poor, like there's just so many issues on these countries that they just want to escape. So maybe that's because of that uh, environment that a lot of people may be like that. If that answers your question well, agree.
Hmm. Yeah, I was just wondering because I'd kind of been hearing mixed information. And granted, the video that I saw was from like over a year ago, so I don't know if it's
Um.
possibly changed in the
Also, this
last little while.
concept of eh, well, love is love. One could say. Uh, uh, the idea is like love is love and different, but not every. To be fair, there's a subject for, and this isn't meant to be bad. It's just there's a whole concept of yeah, certain values do not mix. Like the idea of oh, you see it like occasionally, like sometimes they will do it, but not all mixed people turn out relationships turn out good, especially with the kids. Like I have seen weird stuff. It's like sometimes it's convenient. Some people do it. Some people times they turn out like Tiger Woods. Sometimes they turn out like
Well,
a bum.
something as simple as like just like two different religions can like wreak havoc on a family. Like
Considering
something as
too,
simple as that, and I'd have to consider like an entire culture to be
and not
much more
exactly like
impactful than just.
I'm not gonna speak of experience, so no one trusts me on this entire. But in my knowledge of parts of the world, like if they tried to go do that to like Japan and Asia, but it's not going to go
Uh,
down well because
those are a lot of the countries, man. Like supposedly Japan has really traditional
they'll
gender roles, so
try.
that's kind of where that and Thailand seem to be the two
Well,
main ones that I keep seeing people
here's
say
your
are
problem with this
where the
though.
passport bros are
That
going.
is a very interesting cultural divide because of the whole dark skin thing. Not just because anybody. Because the concept in these parts of China and Japan is dark skinned people are really bad. So good luck over there.
Well, I haven't heard so much that like China is a destination for this, but I heard specifically Japan due to like the strong like traditional values, and then also Thailand.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I've heard
Good luck,
Thailand as
yo.
well.
Thai
But-
is Thai or Korean as you're thinking.
Mm.
Earlier, you mentioned like when a girl from this country seeking for a guy outside would be non-traditional, and this is a very interesting point, a very fair point. So the way we can frame it is you're right on that. They may be not traditional from where they are, but they may fit more traditional values here. But again, that's a case by case thing. So that was a very interesting question there, and that's kind of a question we get later on as well.
Well, I apologize for jumping the gun.
Well, that's still fine. That's point of the discussion, you know. So yeah, passport bros are people that go elsewhere of their bubble to find love. Next up would be why are American women tend to be angry at that trend? And I specified that because I've seen many videos of them being angry at this, and even more nuanced one get angry at that, and like even here in Canada, a lot of them are better toward that kind of approach and way of doing things. So I asked that because I'm wondering, as guys, I wish we had like Miss Sparkle around to like enlighten us on that, but I guess we will do what we
Probably
can do.
has feelings on passport bros.
Yeah,
Probably got a few feelings on the subject.
yeah. I wish she was around so we can have our perspective. But anyhow, that's left to us to try to understand from our perspective. So I'll ask Gray, why?
I'm not sure. To me, it seems like counterintuitive because it's like if this person, feels that they're not like a true competitor or can't like match the market value of traditional males like in this country, so they need to go somewhere else where, it's kind of like a bigger fish in a smaller pond, so to speak. I don't know. Would this be somebody that is a viable mate anyway? Like, I don't know. I guess I really don't care if somebody who I would not have any potential with, who clearly doesn't share my same values, if they're looking to go to another country to find a mate. I just don't know why that would affect me at all. So I'm not sure why, other than the potential loss of potential mates. But and I guess in a way, it is kind of like talking smack on your fellow Americans to say that you're not good enough. You have these values that aren't good enough, so I must find a mate elsewhere. I guess maybe you could feel some sort of jealousy or something to that, but I think anything that I come up with would be kind of mind reading. I'd be very interested to know why a few of the women are. The main thing that I saw with the few of the videos that I saw were just essentially like the potential mate is no longer viewing them as a viable option, and they want to be viewed as that, which I don't know. I guess I just don't get it. The type of women that generally they're looking for are not really the type of women that I'm looking for. So I'm assuming that, they're not necessarily taking a mate out of my potential pool, and instead they're just whittling a non-mate out of the pool for me, the person that wouldn't match what I'm looking for. But I don't know. Maybe I'm looking at this wrong. You have a different reason as to why people would be upset about this?
You hit the nail right at the right place. That was exactly what I was thinking. And I can go on that by saying that if someone is looking elsewhere, you may force yourself into thinking why. And people don't like to think why. People think like they are the way they are and people must accept them the way they are. And they realize that people don't really accept that. That's why they go elsewhere. So that makes some kind of non-comfort, uncomfort. I don't know the exact word. Like they are not comfortable in that. Is there a right word to explain what I just said?
Sorry, I was muted. I think discomfort is the word you're looking
Discomfort.
for.
Yeah, exactly. That was the word I was searching for. But that create discomfort. You're like, oh, so I'm not good enough. So they look elsewhere, and this is breaking for some people because some people don't want to change and they are satisfied with what they are, and it's fine to be fine with who you are, but also it's great to work on yourself to be a better version of yourself. And if people don't like that version, then it's fine. Eventually you will still find someone, but maybe try your best to like change on a better way, if you know what I mean, because I think everyone can change if they want to. Um, anyhow, that's really like that jealousy aspect. It's like elsewhere they are better, and that forced me into changing some of my ways, and I don't want to. That's how I see it. What about you, D Lord? What would be your answer to why our American women tend to be angry at that trend?
Mm, I mean, maybe it's always comes down to a probably comes down to a desirable thing, really. Like if it's a desirable or people meet standards. I mean, I've seen people who entirely think it's just easier to do that, but like but as I said, I've also seen others that just doesn't work. Like people will. I mean, if it's like, sure, oh, he'll date that person, but he won't date me. Like, I've also seen some people who just intentionally well, not in terms of punching down, but they go with something easier, thinking it works. And I'm just like, mm, I mean, basically someone in your own league, or where you think is your league, if that makes sense.
Yes, it does.
It's weird too, because it's also usually when this happens, people don't want to think about cultures being your culture being so sour no one wants to date you. You know?
Yeah.
Mhm.
It's kind of weird like that because it's happening in parts of America. It happened in Europe for a little while, and then you know
It's also happening where I am, but we
it's a
have less
what is it?
money, so we
The
have
term
less option.
the proper term is maybe not homogeny or normal. Might be the right term, but you never know. It's one of those things of dwindling standards. Then again, it's like sure, like, but as I said, it could just be a person going after a lower. Why doesn't the person want to be with it? Oh, that's kind of a topic, though. A whole, and that's kind of a part of a larger topic. Passmore Bros just touch upon this because the breakdown of the relationships people see. I mean,
Yeah.
parenting is entirely a separate. If you model it after that, it's going to be entirely weirder.
But do you think anyone's going to, like an Asian country or another country to look for a mate because of their parenting skills? Or I don't know. I just have to think that isn't necessarily a
Parenting or
factor
what
in
they
this.
see is being
More suitable for parenting in some cases.
because there's this thing
Hmm.
too. It's right because like the concept is it's not like out of it because culturally millennials are very thing is millennials are very diverse. Like we're talking pre-Gen Z. Uh, a lot were mixed. Like there's a whole ton that were like what is it like mixed like mixed races, like when you think in marketing, right? Why is millennial marketing very multicultural?
Because it's a multicultural
Very
generation.
multicultural generation.
Yeah,
Not because of the whole thing. That's because you're seeing what I'm saying, right? You see what I'm
yeah,
saying?
yeah.
It's a very much a very multicultural generation when it comes down to.
This is true. So that may be a point. Like they prefer going outside to explore the bigger world. Um, so yeah, fair response there. I had something in mind, but it actually slipped up my mind and I forgot. So I guess we will move on to question number 3: the good and the bad, the good and the bad about passport bros, pros and cons. Starting with Delor.
As I said, potentially you find yourself in a situation that you could be taken advantage of. You could also just waste your time trying to do that. And I think pros, I would say, you might find the person who actually would love you and you can form a relationship. And it could be a healthy one. Cons are, it could just straight be a lot worse.
Yeah,
And basically, it's just sometimes you can just re- trouble breeds the additional hassle just breeds more trouble. So
that's true.
I mean, I've not said I've seen it personally. I've seen it. It's interesting. What people think are picturesque, but what people would is the question. That's why I think the pros and cons. Because sometimes it works out, sometimes not. Sometimes other.
Yeah, that's a fair point. Do you want to add more?
No.
Okay, so I will go next with that one. One of the pros, one of the strengths of this, that would be forcing some people to think outside of their own box and thinking and reflecting on how they could improve. Because if they see people fleeing, if they see people leaving, maybe they will start asking questions. I'm not saying everyone will, but I know some people will, and it will be like, oh, actually, maybe my mindset is wrong, and maybe they are right. Maybe I should look into myself to be that high caliber partner and mate for someone else. So that could be a pro. Like, you see competition, you force yourself into like becoming better. Um, so that's a pro. Now a con is, in some cases, not every case, but in some cases, guys already said it. But in some cases, the person just won the passport. Once that person is on the country with you, they leave you, and this is kind of sad. But this is a risk. This is one of the downsides. Um, so yeah.
Because
Uh,
the aspect I should say is it gets weird when you're dealing with like they'll look at it as it's like I heard the story of about his son went to Mexico and around the world. He dressed as an American. They go, oh, it's an American. We can. He makes money, and he's like, Hassan went like down to Mexico, dressing all fancy and stuff. So
yeah,
they're like they took advantage of him.
yeah. Um, so now I will ask Gray the same question.
Yeah. Well, I think like the biggest positive from it would be you might actually meet a mate that does, match what you're looking for. I think that would be the biggest positive, but I think there's a lot of negatives. So the thing is, like, they're looking for traditional. I'm guessing like American traditional, um, which is strange. I don't know if you necessarily find that in a different country, and then you're adding a whole bunch of additional layers to this. For instance, I don't think I would find the mate that I'm looking for, and it's not that I'm not looking for a foreign mate or something like that. It's I don't speak additional languages. I haven't gone to the trouble of learning an additional language. I'm really looking for communication with a partner. I
Yeah.
just can't see a language barrier helping that at all. I maybe if you're looking for somebody who is subservient, who you're not looking for a lot of small talk. You're not looking for like any conversation really. Maybe that's a huge plus for you. I don't know. It seems like you're trying to then get somebody else who may be in a slightly worse position, most likely financially, and that's why they would take this giant journey. Um, and you're trying to make them fit some mold that they don't necessarily know, and that you are trying to force them into. I don't know. Maybe that would work for some, but it just seems like there's so many potential downsides to this, especially with compatibility, communication, expectations, just values overall. Like, I don't know. I think that's kind of one of the most important parts of like dating or, talking to somebody else is kind of figuring out if you are compatible, where your ideologies kind of align, where your values align. I think adding a language barrier to that would make it so much more difficult. I don't know. It just seems like there's so many more wrenches you're throwing into this situation to alleviate a couple that were already there. And then on top of that, most likely you're not the cream of the crop, the pick of the litter yourself if you're going to this other country to try and, elevate yourself. So now that more people are doing this, are you then going to keep being lowered on the whatever you want to call it, scale, totem pole, whatever? Are you going to keep losing your place because now higher value males are going to do this? Are you working on yourself at all, or is it just like a quick fix? Like, yeah, I can't, live up to the standard of what everybody is looking for here, but because these people have different values, I can kind of take one of them. That's the other thing. Like, it does kind of make it seem like you're not looking for a match. You're not looking for a human being. It's no, you're going to this country to collect somebody to bring them. It seems to devalue the other person. Maybe I'm looking at this incorrectly, but in my opinion, it seems like there's a whole bunch of potential downsides that come to this.
I think you brought very fair points, and I like what you brought because I didn't thought of it, and I agree with it. It's very good point, but again, um, not everyone may look like at the first one they meet there. Maybe they will look into it. That may be a counter argument, maybe. Um, but yeah, I fully understand communication is important, and this is also why eventually if I become a passport bro, because I do plan maybe eventually if it doesn't work out here I will go elsewhere, but I plan on learning the language where I'm going at. That's why I want to learn Spanish eventually. Right now I have other stuff in mind, but I want to learn Spanish because I want to visit these countries, and if I end up finding a match, I end up finding a match. If not, that's fine. But anyhow, it's important to learn other language because we need to destroy these barrier, these walls. Anyhow, I'm wondering if the Lord has something to say. Looks like
Not
it's
really.
kind of fixed. It's not
Kind of has
perfect,
a
but it's
fun
better.
vinyl sound to it. It's like you're playing a record right now. It's kind of nice, Damon.
What? Really?
Have you read the private chat?
You really didn't tell me that my mic was doing this?
I tried to a
Not
couple times in the private chat. I didn't want to, the huge hordes of people listening. I didn't want to interfere with their enjoyment of the program. But yeah.
but it's slightly better now. Um,
Is it better
anyhow,
or worse?
it's better. It's better. Um, so, do you want to add more to this before we move on to question number 4? D Lord.
No.
Okay.
Please let me know if
Deal.
it's staticky. I did not test it. I'm sure a cat messed with it.
Well, it's
Right
weird.
now
It like
it's
kind of comes and goes like in waves. Like right now, it's pretty good. Like it kind of sounds like a record is playing. Like it's just got that little fuzz down below. But I don't know. For a minute there, when you were like really talking, all of a sudden it started going wild, and that's when I messaged. But I don't know. It seems to be better now.
yeah. Anyhow, question number 4. I'll ask Dre. Do you think a woman's mind changed based on where they are coming from?
Yeah, I mean, you know, yes. So it kind of depends what you're talking about there, like nature or nurture. We are a product of the culture, but then on top of that, we're also a product of, like our upbringing and whatever. That is kind of the nature or nurture. I'm assuming we would kind of use nature as like whatever culture or you're born into. That's just kind of what's naturally around you. But then the nurture is, the actual, environment in which you grew up, like your home life or whatever. If they're now, that's not saying that you're condemned to have whatever values your parents had or whoever raised you, but that's definitely going to weigh heavy on all of your experiences for sure. So I don't know to just I think it's really amazing that you're thinking of, if you were to go this route, you would be putting research into this. You'd be putting some sort of effort into it to actually learn the language. So like you could communicate and, you could actually find a partner. I fear that that's not necessarily what a lot of the passport bros are doing.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It just seems like it is kind of interesting. I feel like I kind of lost the thread on that thought train. I'm trying to go back to the question. Stalling for time, but I don't know that that's quite working out. Yeah. So yeah. Sorry. Would a woman's mind change based off of where they're from? Uh, yeah. I think it would definitely. Like we are in a modern culture, if you will. These modern sensibilities that we have. I think it would be very weird to assume that somebody from nowadays, from modern times, would have some sort of like 1800s sensibilities. Yeah, I think we all are a product of the time, so to speak, and then we kind of choose our own individual values from there. But I don't know. I just yeah, I think a woman's mind can change on, what they want based off of where they're at. But I think it would be multifaceted. I don't think it would necessarily just be how they're raised, but it could be, the actual culture that's going on. And then it definitely would be where you're at geographically as well. So yeah, I mean, I'd like to think that anybody has the power to change, and you could do anything regardless of where you're at, but it's going to factor in, and you're going to get certain pressure depending on where you're at, whether it's going to be from the family or from the culture. It would be, you're going to get looks if you dress something differently than everybody else in the culture. I think just that alone, like the peer pressure, the whole societal push, if you will, it's probably going to affect you in some way. And then the entertainment, that's going to dribble down some way to affect the way that your mind is going. It is kind of the argument that a lot of people are making, that like, violent video games make violent people. I don't know if that's necessarily true, but the desensitization thing definitely does seem to be proven out with the science that, you can be desensitized to certain things. So if you are seeing a less moral culture, if you will, you probably would be desensitized to seeing that lack of morality. So I think, yes, your mind can definitely change, and it would be based on where you're at.
This is really good points there. I agree with everything you said, and it's something we really see in sociology and psychology, how the human mind works. Now, the biggest reason why I brought this question here, it's because I remember seeing one of these passport bros videos made by a woman, and or like N-word was like at the end of the entire video talking about the matter. She was like, "Oh, we are all the same woman," and I tend to say I disagree with that because a lot of who you are is depending on your upbringing, where you live, what your parents were thinking. Now, of course, you also have friends, you also know people, you make connection, you have co-workers, you have all of these people that do influence who you are. So, like, pick someone from Canada, for example. I won't say we all think the same way, but we see basically the same bubble of people. So most Canadian are thinking the same. And since we are neighbor with you, you guys also think a lot of similar things. So this is all like intertwined. And American are closer to like South America countries, so there are a connection there. So guys are also similar to them, but not at the same extent as Canada and South America because we are so far away from each other that maybe it's really like different, if you know what I mean. Um, so I think there's a lot of truth in that your surrounding are making you, but where you are is also an influence there. Um, if for example you're in America, maybe the best idea is not necessarily to go in South America, but for example, to go in Africa, or maybe not Africa because it's a really sad place based on what I've seen and heard. Maybe like more
Beautiful,
Asia.
though.
Yeah, it's beautiful, but it's a sad place. Let's be honest. Um, Maybe more like Asia, Australia, these places. I'm thinking a lot about Australia, but I'm also very scared of that place because of all of the nature being very dangerous. Like they have big plants, big insect. It's like everything wants to end your life there. That's what scared me away from that place. But Australia looks fun, man. Outside of like the deadly animals and plants.
Yeah, only the deadliest. But they're beautiful as well. So I do have one kind of question for you, and I don't disagree with what you're saying, but I don't know. Like, wouldn't it also be? So you were saying like people across Canada or across America kind of have the same general, I don't know what you'd say, values, but I don't know. Wouldn't that also kind of change like geographically? Like, say a West Coaster might have some different values than an East Coaster, which would be different than like middle of the country, like Cowtown, like rural versus, city dweller. It does kind of seem like your value may be even small, or your values may change even smaller based off of where you're at geographically. Like, you couldn't take someone out of a huge city and expect them to want to be like a farmer or something like that. Like, it would have to be somebody whose values do kind of match in that particular way. Not everyone's going to desire every type of lifestyle just because they're in like the same country. Like there's a bunch of different lifestyles in the U.S. that I don't think really look great to me, but culturally, we probably do have a lot of the same values.
Yeah, that's why I say I'm saying not everyone. Like we are still neighbors, so like I'd say if I'm a town guy, I will be similar maybe to the town guys in America, like in the USA, but I will have different things because I had different upbringing. That's why I say we are similar because we're a neighbor, but we are also different because we have different upbringing. But like we are neighbors, so we will influence each other. Like I know many American that decided to live here and that kind of stuff. And oh yeah, it's better, the Lord. We
So
almost
far,
no
so
longer
good,
see
sir.
it. Yeah. Um,
Hmm.
but
And I agree with you. And I think even like city life would affect some of the rural thing. It's not like, people on farms don't have internet or anything like that. Like everything is kind of progressing, but yeah, I don't know. I would just have to think like somebody from Miami wouldn't necessarily love Wisconsin life or some vice versa. Like,
yeah,
yeah, well, maybe someone from Wisconsin would like Miami life. I don't
The
know.
word you're looking
It just,
for is wanting someone who's tried.
so I don't know. Like I think there are traditional people in New York for sure, but or in Florida, you know, like you do have a lot of people who have retired there. I would think a lot of those would be traditional people, but I don't know. Even, you know, like Amish traditional would be completely different than, say, like, you know, city traditional from like, I don't know, LA or something like that. I think regionally it even affects it a little bit more. So I don't know. Like it seems like there would be this kind of need to understand what somebody means by traditional. Like it's just a label that encompasses so much.
Yeah,
I don't know if my idea of tradition is the same as yours.
yeah. That's true. That's another thing. And on top of that, like another thing that influenced heavily like my culture per se is we watch a lot of American media, like TV shows, movies. We played same video games. You know, we have so much in common. You know, and yeah, that's why we are so similar, but we are also different because, as I said, we have different upbringing. And I'd say like here in Quebec on my bubble we are like a bit later than you, but we usually like we follow the bandwagon, but we are like on the last wagon of the train while guys are leading that train, if you know what I mean. Like
The
the
country might be. I'm in a flyover state, so I might be in the same type of bubble as you, where we get the stuff afterwards. But I understand what you mean.
like to give you a good example, I will bring something that could be interesting if we ever get the chance to have a guest for that, because I don't see ourselves just talking about it if we don't have a guest. But LGBTQ plus issues. Um, it came up first in the USA, and recently it came up here in Canada. And I see the pushback guys had a few years ago now, and I think it's freaking sad because we are so stupid to like we pick up like even the worst trait of America, and like I'm not saying every Canadian are like that, but oh, I've seen
Is
a
it
lot of that
the
kind of shit.
worst, or is it just the difference? Because the concept of like you talk on that issue, you're home to Keffels.
What do you mean, kettles?
Keffels lives up there. Like certain parts of Ontario and other places became more accepting of people of that type.
We used to be like that, but
Oh,
as
there wasn't.
yeah, we used to be like that, but then we like I'm not saying everyone has turned a bigot, but as there's a rise of the bigotry and that kind of stuff.
Is it bigotry or going against the activist cultures of it? Because there's a two sides of that.
I think
Because it's the activists that make that movement bad, not
yeah,
the other.
the thing is here we don't have that many activists. That's why I say the rise of bigotry, because here I don't know that many activists, to be honest. Like here I will speak at least for Quebec. Like we are, man, it's sad to say, but we are weak-minded. Like we let people step on us, and that's why there's a lack of like offensive. So when there's like people that do a pushback against the trend, we only see these people, if you know what I mean. So the moment I've started seeing these anti-LGBTQ plus ideas floating around, like there were a few pushback, but not as much as these things floating around, if you know what I mean. Like they were more like thing against diversity than things for diversity, if you know what I mean, because we don't have that many activists, if you know what I mean. And we have a lot of traditional people that are very narrow-minded, but it's mainly outside of town. It's like on countryside. And this is sad because in Quebec, there's a lot of people in countryside. So they just seem like they take more space than the open-minded people, if you know what I mean.
I
And
do, but see, you got to bear in mind is that part of your recent migration problems. Because remember, what someone calls the world's most peaceful religion is not the most peaceful religion. You can ask London on this. That same aspect. Migration does affect this to a degree, right?
Yeah.
So the concept is you if in that aspect is that normal or is that just another way? So because some people think if they're peaceful, they are not.
Yeah, that's
They are
true.
not tolerant as one may fear or one may believe. So without that, the dancing around it, but that is probably what's happening up there. Look at London. London, everyone thought was, oh, a nice, gay, oh, happy place. Check it now.
Yeah.
It's not the tolerant as it was.
And it has become this way, like really, like 3 years ago, like with COVID, there was a clear divide. Like with COVID was the only thing that was really like universal. Like we had the same kind of stuff, like vaccine and passport of vaccine and that kind of stuff. We had the same kind of stuff at the same time as you guys, but they did loosen up in restriction later than you. That's why we are kind of always late on everything. Like, so yeah, I think COVID didn't help that kind of shit, because around that time, this is when some of the anti-LGBTQ plus thing pop up. Um, Maybe a bit later, actually. I lost track of time.
See,
Anyhow,
I've heard this notion. Maybe one day, if you do, there is a belief, right? You say we are theoretically neighbors, but
yeah,
and we do, but it's like saying what is traditional and what is traditionally not. What you think is another culture, if that makes sense. Like it's in the realm of, as I said, we are in an era that is straight, quite literally a different era. Like it is a culture of change as well as it is changing of the traditional culture. So with that happening, it's like everything. How much stays and how much falls away. But you have to consider.
yeah. Um, so now I will ask you, D Lord, do you think a woman's mind changed based on where they are coming from?
Truly depends, but usually for the most part not. I have seen people who stay, if they stay in the one particular culture, they are of that culture. The other ones are like, oh, no, but no, but so, I just did something really dumb. Um, but no, I think they don't sometimes change. No,
That's very interesting. And
sometimes they do because if they are radically different, right?
yeah,
Like
another
if
another thing. What did you wanted to say?
um, because I was gonna say the aspect is uh, if that's the case of like sometimes they do. Like I've seen a lot of like people who they're kind of like they'll stay the same culture. Then sometimes you have the odd birds that do change a lot.
Yeah,
So you have
this is
to
good points.
you have to think about it that way, right? Because not to say it, I in my area I've seen more like it's like an influx of Asians are different. A lot of the Koreans I see are they're very similar. The kids they have a to be honest, they have a crab pot mentality. Which I know it sounds weird, but they don't usually stray too far from the culture. You know, the
The-
crab, like the idea crabs pull the other crab back into the pot kind of thing.
that exists indeed. So there's another like way of telling what I was trying to say earlier is like open relationship, right? So maybe yeah, like now it's been like 4 years. I was on dating apps 4 years ago, and like most of the people were searching for basically the same thing. Like most people on this website used to find like monogamy interesting, like only one person is enough, and it has shifted. Um, we are 4 years later, and like it's been 2 months. I stopped using dating app, but anyhow, like 2 months ago, when I was using it regularly, dating apps, most people I was like seeing on that platform or these platform were searching for open relationship, and they didn't believe in monogamy and that kind of stuff. So like I feel like I don't know when exactly this has changed because there's a 4 year gap where I wasn't on any of these platforms, but like it's a sign that we follow you guys, but we are in the last wagon of the train. So guys do it first, and then we just follow your lead, And yeah, it's sad. Um, I don't believe in open relationship. Um, anyhow,
Well, how do you know that? So it's not like, polyamory or whatever, or even polygamy was like just invented like right now. Like it has been traditional in a bunch of different cultures. Like even in the US, there's certain like weird sects that somehow were into like the whole polygamy thing. Like you can even find it still in like certain. I think there was like a compound in Idaho raided not too long ago where there's like this weird polygamous lifestyle where like a guy has many wives. And it seems like a lot of these, like red pillars or whatever, or hook pickup artists tend to be saying, like you should be able to sleep around as a man. It seems to be kind of a one-way standard where it seems to be more of like an evening out of, isn't it more socially acceptable for women to do the same thing and act as just as much of a pig as the men do? I don't know. Maybe I'm looking at it wrong, but I haven't necessarily seen that it's more predominant. Just now the women are freer to, kind of flaunt it more. But I have to think that this was still going on before. I don't know. I just don't see this as completely a new phenomenon. Maybe it is picking up steam, but
You're talking about the concept in it's a difference.
well, he's saying that he's seeing it on like dating
Dating
apps
apps,
now.
much
Like,
right?
more like it's much more
yeah, but I
often.
mean, like, so it's not as traditional as a dating app. Like a dating app isn't traditional. Like, they've been around for what, like 10 years.
Yeah,
So I don't know. Like it is a shift in that, but
So if you're
I
looking
don't
at a
know. Like
culture,
there are,
right, it's they're being if they're to be honest, if they're looking for an open relationship, they're at least being honest. They just want
yeah.
someone to be with like that and then that.
yeah.
But there's also the
So
thing
I'm
in
kind of
the dating there's also this thing in the dating world that's been happening for a while. I mean, I've seen it with people. They do the bullpen mentality where
Oh, bullpen. I thought you said full pen. I was like, dude, this is a family
They
program.
do the
Okay, let's not. But yes, bull like in
the-
baseball. I get you. Somebody on deck. I
yep.
got you.
Basically, you think I've seen people, guys, and same with girls. They're like the women. They're like, well, he's into me, and he's with someone else, or she's with someone else. And I'm like, that's just what they've been doing for many, many years. They're talking to you, right? When they're talking to you, and they've already made their mind to go do what elsewhere. I mean, like being open, what I think is the idea of being open and being that type is just basically people like in Gen X, people thought, I still go back, it goes to like the concept of they thought it was just you could be bi because you could just sleep with anybody. It's like, Jesus, just admit you're just admit
Supposedly,
just
some people
admit you
still kind
just
of
don't
have
want to
that.
be in a committed relationship. That's all it
Yeah.
is.
Yeah. Well, so I don't know, but what I'm saying is like, so if we're talking about dating apps, like they aren't traditional. Like they did just come
No,
about,
they've
and
been around a
society has been
while.
changing since like the summer of love, like the real one, like the awakening, like since then free love has been more of a thing. It hasn't been you must be married in order to have bedroom fun, as multi likes to
Yep.
say. So I don't know, is this not more of a result of that same thing, like just the progression of culture essentially, but now there's this proliferation of, there's not a stigma to it, so it's more of a hookup culture, if you will. And then on top of that, like, so now people are hooking up, but do you necessarily want to? I don't know. It's kind of that whole. I don't know exactly what you'd call the phenomenon, but it is kind of like the bullpenning, like Tiamat was saying, where you kind of want to have somebody around, but you're not really dating. You're not really looking to take this to the next level. Instead, you're just you're hooking up, but there's some safety, and this is a regular thing. But then you have that. I don't know. I just wonder if people aren't kind of exploring that and calling that poly. Um, I don't know. I can't say that wouldn't have appealed to me when I was like 20 or something. But I don't know. I think once you see it, you'd, or sort of experience it, you'd see the emotions or whatever that you're not necessarily in control of, these feelings that kind of come up. And it might work out for a certain type of person, but I don't know. It doesn't seem to have a great track record.
Like, yeah, there's some cases where it creates jealousy between people. Like they're like, "Oh, do
For
you like
sure.
it more with that other person or me?" And they're like, "Oh, but no, I like you, but they're like, why am I not enough?" Do you know what I mean? So that's why I don't believe in that. And I've seen an increase in that. Like there are many people I just cross off because I wasn't interested into like having several people involved. Um, so yeah, that's how I see it. So I can see what you mean by the culture is changing, and this worries me, to be honest. Uh, yeah, this worries me so much because I
But
don't want some things to change. I
people
agree
hate
that.
change.
Yeah, I like the way I see it is do you, I will do me. But if everyone does stuff I don't like, I will be stuck alone because I don't like what they are doing. Do you know what I mean? That's my worry there is like too many people are getting infected by it.
Well, I mean, you gotta
Yeah.
think of it this way. If the actually, I will say one of the things you see a change in culture is about the concept of just generic change in general is sometimes very problematic because people will not think about it or they do like Basically, people will basically hate change. Now, the question is, why do they? Your problem is, especially if you're in a society that, like, gets to the point like we are, you have a diverse idea, you have a split in generations. It's like try talking to your mother about stuff. She's not going to see the same. Some of us who have been around for the advent of the internet kind of thing, we've seen 56K versus that.
Yeah.
And then you've also had a lot of weird, I want to say back ass words, cultural revolutions of sorts. Basically, some could call it indoctrination. But in reality, it's very much the case of it. It's really interesting in that regard of how it works because when you look at it, it can be unique, but it can also just be, as human race, we generically hate change. So that is something to consider.
Yeah.
It's just how it works, right? Some people, as I say, they just hate change. And that's a big thing. Culture, it's been a big culture shift. Like, especially if someone's like 5 years younger than you, they're very different. Like, I can
That's
remember.
true.
I don't know. So I would agree with you if you're like 20, but I don't know. By the time you're 40, is somebody that's 35 all that?
By the
different than
way,
you?
what's funny?
Like I agree, but it
Oh,
scales
it's
as you get
different.
older.
Like, I've seen what's funny. There's a study that just, it's something I'll be curious if we ever get into it. Like the
Yeah.
concept of Zoomers are not as tech efficient as you may believe. The dumbing down of tech education, um, just as a concept of they're having to teach people in school about how to go about what is it? Crap, there you go. Uh, how to create a file. People do not know how to create a file or a folder
This is sad.
in high school. They don't. They're actually having. They're talking about the basic death of knowledge. But
This is sad.
that's a study that just came out, by the way.
This is the saddest thing I've heard today. Anyhow, I guess now is the time. This time around, since DC is not there, Gray, you are the chosen one. You will be looking into the video, the playlist I made. Except if you got a video of your own. Do you, Gray? Do you have a video of your own, or the
I got nothing.
Okay,
I
not related to
I did
this,
not
I'm
come
sure.
prepared. And then I'm sure you'd also like me to share it, right? Hey, it is. It's the biggest fan ever.
Hi, Sparkle. You're there. Can you join us? Are you available to join us before we move on to the video? Are you available to join us before we do the video part? As Gray is searching for a video in the playlist.
Well, first, I'm searching for the playlist. Yeah, I thought we pinned it, but I don't see it in the pins. So, yeah, if you want to vamp, this will take me just a minute.
Okay. I guess that will be important to pin it eventually. I thought I did, but I didn't. Apparently, I forgot.
Well,
Don't
but
forget
isn't
it's
it?
on our co-host chat.
The co-host
Yeah.
one.
So
Okay.
basically,
I was
No,
looking at
but
the
I-
complete wrong one.
if you're
Okay.
gonna fill dead air, you might as well do it this way. Learn a little bit. No, but it actually is funny that study that came out. It's just about the technical depth of knowledge. Even though you look at like Zoomers and the later generations that grew up with cell phones in their hand, they don't know how to do basic stuff.
This is sad.
It really is actually interesting. Uh, like, it sounds weird. They don't know how to tell time without their phones. They don't know how to read a clock. And I mean, it's very funny, by the way, because these
It's
are the
not that
people
hard.
entering the workforce and advanced careers. And they're not going to be as technology savvy as the generation prior. So that means coding is going to go downhill.
This is funny.
But I've summarized this for a while because you can look at how games have been for the last little while.
Yeah,
Ooh,
the last 10 years ish. Yeah, I agree.
I think I may have found one that it seems to strike a chord with me because of its relation to you. So that sounds ominous, but yeah, I think I found one that I'd be willing to share. Give me just a moment, and I'll share this.
Okay. So you're the one that will project it because my potato computer is
Yeah.
potato.
I'm attempting to.
You may
but
have to download. You may have to do what I did: download it and then present it.
not an option, but I think we're all good here.
I'm really curious because I keep adding stuff that I find interesting. Sometimes I don't even watch it, and I'm like, the
That's
title
scary. That is
strikes
really
me.
That is actually scary.
Okay.
It's-
Well, this is based off of your playlist that you saved
Yeah.
it here, and then based off of your previous comments. So I think you'll see the relevance once I hit this button. Apparently,
Your
you know, Gen
obsession
Z.
with I'm going to go with his obsession with Tim
Oh,
Shapiro.
I think that's one of the few I haven't seen.
Okay. Well, Lady Shapiro here.
Tim Shapiro.
The lovely Brett
yes.
Cooper. Yeah, she's going to explain why Gen Z apparently hates sex scenes, which is interesting to me, but it kind of hits a little close to home with this podcast and our other podcasts.
I'm starting to.
So I gotta say before we start, I do not hate them if they are justified. Like Eyes Wide Shut, I like that movie, and there's a bunch of that. But like, I will keep bringing back freaking Gen V because that's the worst example. It broke the freaking plot for romance that I didn't give a crap about.
They're kids in college. I'm sorry, man. Like that is par for the
It broke
course.
the
Like
plot,
the
bro.
first time you get out of living at your parents' house and you're living in a dorm, I'm sorry, there's gonna be hooking up in college. But I think it did progress the plot. But fair enough. For you, perhaps it did
Their
not.
relationship led to nothing.
I could definitely see how it would be
anyway.
gratuitous.
Their relationship led to nothing anyway. So on top of that, it was filler.
Yet now they have a history and they appear to be on opposite sides in this war, sir. There is something going off of this. It creates a different dynamic. But I get what you mean. There's a lot of it definitely in The Boys that is gratuitous, and this is that same world. So
Yeah.
I can understand it's not everyone's cup of tea.
Yeah.
But hey, perhaps it is your status as Gen Z, right? I don't know.
Am I
but
really
maybe
Gen
you'll
Z?
identify.
When is the time zone for Gen Z? I'm curious.
I don't
Maybe
Debatable.
I'm not. I don't know.
Okay, that's
Can someone
debatable.
look into it? I will actually look
Yeah,
into
I
it.
guess so.
Gen Z.
Look, it's
Um,
debatable.
Americans born in the late 1990s to early 2000s.
Yeah, I'm
so
Z. Yeah. Okay.
some sources give specific year range as 97 to 2012.
It's
Oh,
kinda
actually,
like-
no, I'm not. I'm earlier than that.
Ooh, so then you would be a millennial Gen Y,
Yeah.
apparently, if you were born between 81 and 96.
Yeah, exactly. I'm on the limit of that.
And then these damn people are calling alphas people who were born between 2013 and 2025. You are no alphas.
That's
There's
true. Like
actually
my half
there-
brother is no alpha, and he is on that range. I like my half brother, but he's no alpha. Okay, so I guess we can start now. I'm curious to see what she
All
has to
right.
say.
Let me know if I need to raise the volume or lower it, but here we go.
Section. I'm Brett Cooper. Today we are talking about something that we have talked about a lot on the show, which is how our society and our media just pushes sex and sexuality so hard these days. And the demographic for that sex and sexuality keeps getting younger and younger, which is the real problematic problem.
I don't like it.
So do you think that they're pushing it? I don't know. It felt like those were kind of loaded terms, but interesting.
I think they do. Look at Gen V. Look at Game of Thrones.
But is that marketed towards kids? Like both of those are. Gen V is Amazon. I guess that'll be similar. But like Game of Thrones is HBO. Like there is some barrier to entry there. I don't know that it's pushed towards kids or it's put in children's programming. But I mean, you could argue with something like Poison Ivy or something.
Yeah.
Or now I'm blanking on her name, Harley Quinn. Like they are definitely sexualized images, and it's kind of the female version of the superhero world. I guess they would be villains, but I don't know. I guess you could make some arguments that way, but it seems like they're just dressed sexy. It's not necessarily thrusting sex in your face, but maybe I'm wrong. I just know, like when I went to Canada, like. It's very different what they allow on TV. And then when I've been in the UK as well, like, after a certain time, like it really gets spicy, if you will. I would say much spicier than anything you could get on like US, even cable, way spicier than you'd get in like Game of Thrones or anything like that. So I don't know. I wouldn't feel like it's thrust in the faces of like Europeans or anything like that. But perhaps it's like the cultural taboo of like, you can't show that here. Like that can't be seen on TV. That, it makes it more scintillating. There is more of like a desire for it where, I don't know, when I've been in Europe and what I know of Europe, it doesn't seem to be like as solely focused on it. It doesn't seem to be as much of like an obsession, but maybe I'm wrong. It just seems like more of an open thing where here it's a taboo and maybe that taboo is creating the interest.
Yeah. Well, here in Canada, but at least in Quebec, in my experience, it used to be a taboo, but it's no longer one. And I'd say it has changed. Well, depending on who you talk to, I will bring some example. My mother, it's a taboo for her, but my father, on the other end, it's not really taboo. So I don't know. Like I think it really depends on your upbringing there, but I think as a society, it's no longer a taboo because it's very open as a society. I think on that aspect at least. But yeah.
Fair enough. And I'm not watching a lot of like children's programming or anything like that. So maybe I'm just not seeing it. Perhaps I do have blinders up to this particular aspect of it.
Yeah, well, me too. I'm not that familiar with children programming or whatever, but I will say that thirst trap, if we can call them that way, are often used more like teenager-oriented TV shows. Like the best example that come to my mind is like Smallville. All these soft bedroom fun scene. It's like it's not something as heavily as per se like Game of Thrones or Gen V or The Boys, but
no,
it
fair
was
enough.
still dominant.
Like even like 20 years ago or something like that. Like I think Britney Spears, like she was like 15 or something when they were pushing that whole like her career, that whole like "hit me baby one more time" thing. So fair enough. I guess I wasn't thinking of teens. I was thinking more when they said like thrust in our children's faces. Fair enough. I might have been thinking younger, but you're right. I do see a lot of teen-oriented programming going that way.
I might be able to shed some light on this bit, because granted, the person here does probably won't do it justice. There is this concept of, and I won't be able to explain it as well. Someone who consumes short fat otaku and his language of hypocrisy at times is the idea of safe horny. They hate the idea of traditional overt sexuality, but they will also, but at the same time, they will go glorify degeneracy like furries, hentai, and other stuff. Then judge you, be judging you for your stuff or your relationship or your interest. But at the same time, they'll have a sexualized anime avatar or furry avatar, and you don't think that's bad. Basically, different purity spirals, one could say.
Yeah, I think a lot of things are more acceptable today than before, and some of these things maybe are a bit too far. You mentioned like cartoon that likes a bedroom fun.
Do you remember? Gray? I'm sure remembers this. Do you remember how like certain like Scott Pilgrim stuff was like coming up in the world, like Newgrounds, that type stuff?
I'm not sure if I know exactly what you mean. Like I know Scott Pilgrim. I'm a huge fan
Like
of it.
the web,
I like
the
the
web
comic
art
and that.
kind of thing. Like
I guess I'm not sure exactly what you mean by that. Like, yes, I'm familiar with it.
like
I'm a fan
you
of
go
it.
to the early like maybe 2010s web comics. They look at that as fine. You can have an ambiguous anime avatar and grossly over sexualize that, but if you go thirst trapping, you're considered objectifying.
Yeah.
It's hard to describe in certain terms because some people don't think of it.
Yeah.
And it's just one of those things of we see it a lot, and it's up there as it's a very interesting moral conundrum currently.
I guess now we can play.
Sorry about that. Right at that moment, my dog decided to bark. I literally stepped out right as you said, now we can play. So, sorry. Playing now.
That's fine.
But I don't like it. I don't like it. I don't like it.
From the education system to social media to porn consumption, it truly is everywhere. But per a recent study, young adults in America might not be as interested in it as people assume. And we're going to talk about that today. Before we do, though, make sure that you like.
I will ask Dre, are you interested in it?
Oh, yeah. Bedroom fun is good time fun. Yeah, man. Why would I not be interested in an aspect of the human experience? Really, the experience of life. It's not just to humans. It appears to be an animal pastime as well. Are you not a fan of it, sir?
I will ask D-Lord and then I will answer. D-Lord, are you a fan of it?
It really just depends which one you're thinking of. Like, people's personal likes and kinks change. The question is, if you're trying to find something that's like, I've seen people with weird Puritan spirals. They are definitely very, very, very unique.
Okay. Well, in my case, I don't mind it as long as it has the right place in the story. Like even if it's bad, there's corn outside. If I really want that, I'd rather have it on corn than a movie or TV show. That's how I see it. But again, if it's well used, like another show where I thought that was justified would be Jessica Jones, because a lot of her, I don't know if you guys have seen it. I will ask both of you. So part of her part of her journey as a character was her emotional state. So I thought that was justified in that show for her to like basically sleep around and to show it, because that was part of her arc. By the end of season 3, she kind of valued more other connection and stuff. Or that was by the end of season 2. I can't remember, but at some point she kind of valued her neighbor and the son the neighbor had, and that's why that was kind of justified in Jessica Jones' case.
But I mean, I don't know. So if it's not particularly appropriate to the story, you think it should just be like stricken from? I don't know. It just seems like you'd be hiding like an entire aspect of human life, of really like animal life, I guess.
Yeah,
I don't know. It just
because
seems interesting.
yeah, because it's a story we are talking about. It's a movie. Like, I will give you a good example, like the novel I write. Um, there are a few scenes where there's bedroom fun, but I'm more at it than just describing it in detail. But like, it's part of it because one of my character, she has a character arc in linked with that. But if she didn't add that character arc, I would not show any of that, if you know what I mean. Like, I will give you a good example. The main character of the same novel, his journey is elsewhere. It's more in friendship than relationship with other people. That's why I don't really showcase him like having bedroom fun as well, and I only do it for like his friend basically. Um,
But isn't that like an entire aspect of like, connecting of, it's an entire, I don't know. It just seems like it would be cutting out an entire aspect of someone's life. But then again, I guess there are other aspects that we also cut out, but they're kind of more crude aspects. Like you generally don't, if you're writing a novel, you don't mention every time somebody like uses the bathroom or something like that.
yeah,
But I would think that this is something more important than that. You mentioned like the connection and the friendships. This seems like it would go even beyond that. And it is kind of, a lot of people's goals in life is to find that mate, that partner. So I don't know. It seems like it's just an aspect of life you wouldn't want to necessarily omit. But
I will bring another example, like the Mission Impossible franchise. They don't really need that kind of stuff because the plot is what matters, the action is what matters, Ethan Hunt is what matters, if you know what I mean. So I wouldn't need to see him sleeping around, but in James Bond case, that's part of his characterization, so that's kind of fine to have him sleep around until Daniel Craig is like, no more. um,
That's what you think. That is entirely what you think, sir.
you
I'm
disagree?
sorry. No, I'm just. You're not familiar with the current James Bond.
The last one I've seen was Spectre, I believe. And I
I'm
think
so
they did
sorry, man.
two.
My headphones again decided to disconnect. I'm trying to reconnect right now.
I mean, so
I
what
haven't
we
seen no
used
time to
to,
go.
so what we used to think as what acceptable for
If you like this
many-
video, subscribe to the channel if you have not already, and ring that
Oh,
notification
what
bell.
happened?
It's fine.
I
was just gonna say- I was just gonna say, what you're seeing is what's funny is like Chris Evans kind of makes me cringe to a degree because
Sorry about that. Then it auto played right as I tried to reconnect them. Apparently, sound is just not coming through them, but they're working to go ahead and hit play for some reason. So I apologize about that.
So,
Yeah, talk amongst yourselves. I'm going to need a second to try to fix
so
my audio.
people like Chris Evans, like I've seen it. Chris Evans isn't a self-hating person of his own actual role that he actually popularized, but he does really make questionable opinions about certain items, and
Yeah.
he is very known for this. But it's more a symptom of like. So, are you familiar with the see the concept of safe horny and other stuff, or being modern day canceled for what you like, is very scary for certain people.
Yeah.
So, like, are you familiar with Skullgirls?
I hope it's not the one I'm thinking of. Is it the one I'm thinking of?
Skullgirls, the little, like, pixelated anime fighting game.
No. I don't know about that.
So, there's something about recently the creator of their own works Me Too'd somebody else who has autism or something, basically.
Yeah.
And then they hate their own work, or they're afraid to be canceled by their own work.
Yeah.
And this lead person was a leading person who did the whole thing. They so much so they actually redid the what was it? They redid the art book and then nuked the old art book.
Wow.
And yeah, this is a thing. And people don't think about this. But this is a little, and it's been a recent thing because you don't want to think of this person as probably a steaming person, a really bad person, but they do hate their own work. And they're trying to do their own. So, and it's not quite the idea of progressives canceling, because she herself is like, yeah, I get the whole idea. It's just things come around and go away, basically.
Were you guys like just silent the whole time? Because like I've been trying to switch my audio and I don't hear anything. Damn it! I still don't hear you. Shit. I don't know why my audio.
Someone is a boomer, but now
I can
I
hit play
hear
on
his
this,
audio.
but I'm not going to hear you guys for some
his
reason.
Bird
so,
his bird is telling him to be
try
quiet.
and wave your hands a lot, Multi, if you want it paused.
So that's weird. My computer lagged out. Anyhow, Gray, are you still with us, or you still have issues?
He can't hear us. I'll have to probably.
I will mark it down in the chat. Maybe change
He
microphone.
screwed up his outputs.
Maybe change microphone. Oh, Gray.
Look.
Press play.
Look. He's a boomer. It's totally fine. It is totally good. It is.
He's not that old.
No, it's not me being a boomer. It's this stupid program. Like, it's really stupid. For some reason, it just would not connect my earphones to it at all. So then I plugged in
Did
the
you
actual
screw up your
ones.
output?
No,
Clear?
I literally changed nothing between the time that I hit play last, and then all of a sudden it's just like everything went silent, and no matter what I switched my audio to, nothing would switch. It was really dumb. So I even turned it on where you're supposed to get echo, where my full speakers were going on. I'd hit test, and I'd hear the stupid StreamYard test thing coming through the speakers. No audio other than that. So I don't know. I literally like switched it 5 times, the exact same thing. Finally, it did something. I apologize. I'm a bit frustrated, but this is not on me. This is on StreamYard being real stupid.
So,
D-Lord, stop laughing at him.
Your bird is telling on you.
Yes, my bird is out as well, and she is freaking out as much as I am because the audio is not working. And yeah. Anyway, I'm back now.
What's her name?
So lovely to be back. That is Miss Piggles.
Piggles.
Pigsley, if you will.
Pigsley, okay. That's cool. So you can press play now.
Yeah. Deal. It's been a while.
Bell so that you never miss a comment section or off the clock episode. All right, so this all came out last week when a certain study went viral. Variety posted about it, and they said young people ages 10 to 24 are looking for less sex scenes in television and in movies, according to a new UCLA study. 51.5% of adolescents would like to see more content depicting friendships and platonic relationships, which is not at all what you would expect. Like, people look at
What do you think of that, Gray?
I don't know. I guess I'd like to know a little bit more of the actual stat. Like, I don't know. I guess I'd want to know just a little bit more about it. It's not necessarily like surprising. Perhaps everything would kind of change when everything that you could want is at your fingertips. So maybe in regular media, you don't necessarily want to be inundated with, something that you could get much better in a different location. I don't know. I would just want to know a little bit more about it, but it doesn't necessarily surprise me. Did you have any immediate thoughts on that?
Well, I'm kind of surprised. I'm not in that 51% because I'm surprised. I like platonic relationship. These are good to depict on screen, but I'd say they are as important as loving relationships. They are of equal value, I think. But I feel like a lot of the drive is like, oh yeah, it's better to have friends than lovers, if you know what I mean. And yes, friendship is important, but lovers are also important because your lover, your person you're seeking for, is the other person you will build your life around. And friendship, they are there to support you, so they are as important, as I said. But I think people tend to, well, I think based on that these numbers and what I've heard and seen, people tend to not really value love anymore, and I see that a lot. And this may be another issue why we got so many passport bros, because here in North America, we I say we, but I'm not included, but as a society, it's more driven, oh yeah, you're good on yourself, and just be with your friends and stuff. So am I clear on what I tried to say there, or I sound crazy and I don't
As
make any
cryptic as
sense?
ever, but yes.
I mean, you sound a little bit crazy, but I get what you're saying.
So what about you, Gray? D-Lord. Gray already said. So D-Lord, I mixed up things, names, stuff. What do you think of that, D-Lord?
I mean, it's fine. I mean, it's kind of weird. I wouldn't say it's that. I mean, I just usually call this a weird purity spiral. Usually stuff retracts, but I often find this is a product of stranger. It's weirder for it's a deeper phenomenon than something else. Like when you have the phenomenon, stuff is told so bad that, as I said, they basically it's this weird purity spiral now. But if you look into it deeper, they aren't either happy with themselves or there's something else going on. So
I can see that in people. Some people are scared of love because they got heartbroken in the past.
it's a lot of it's a change. It's a really big cultural shift because the idea of people dating, let's say if they're younger, they go through high school. Like, let's say you're going through high school.
Yeah.
Prom was the biggest thing to certain people. To most, it's like, oh, you always had that weird person that was like, I don't care what prom is, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Now it's just like that. It's like, it's the best way I could say it. Like, it's a weird, like, little cultural change. Like, it just happens. And then you'll see it. will just happen like it does, and then pretty much. Best way I could describe it. It's this weird cultural shift. It's like, as I said, part of the reason I've seen it in Chris Evans. Chris Evans does these weird things, and I have no idea why. And I'm just like, nope. Because and that's the same guy who played Captain America, and you're just like, okay, sir. You know what I mean?
Okay. I guess we can play, except if you guys would like to add more to this.
Gen Z, and they think, oh, degenerate behavior, these crazy youths, the teens, they're all out there. They think of shows like Euphoria and Idol on HBO, and they think, oh, they must love this. We don't really. We don't love it. It's pushed on us, and that's just kind of what we've been offered. But most people that I know aren't actually interested in that. And the comments agreed. Somebody said, yep, completely agreed. They are entirely unnecessary. Something that we often say as the industry is that you just, you can just fall out of screen. You give the illusion, oh, it's about to happen. Oh, a tasteful, fall out of the camera, move on. You don't need to see it. Another person said, I agree. Sex scenes are unnecessary. Now, amongst the replies was, of course, Matt Walsh, who was talking about this. And he brought up a very good point that even I totally glossed over because I was like, look at Gen Z. This is so great. Totally missed.
When someone brings anyone, like in that case it's Matt Walsh, I'm like, why can't that person speak for themselves? Then
I mean, he's a busy host, like true, he also works for Daily Wire, but he's got his own things. Fair enough. It would be awesome if they can't speak for themselves, if you could at least bring like a clip of them saying it or something. But yeah, I get what you're saying.
Yeah, you're right. That's all I wanted to say. You read my mind, I think. I don't know how you did, but
pretty awesome stage fall that they showed a second ago. But I kind of understand what she's saying, and I don't know. Do you have an issue with it? So, to me, if you're gonna like just completely omit sex whatsoever from anything, it feels like you're just omitting like an actual like aspect of life and an aspect of what people are looking for in like a partnership and their mate essentially. But would you be opposed to like alluding to it like tastefully or whatever, like they adjourn to the bedroom and you see like the bedroom door close or something? Would that be too much? Is it just like the gratuitous that kind of turns you off from some things? Like if in Gen V, for instance, they just alluded that they had sex, but they didn't have like that sex
that
scene.
would have been better, and you don't need to like go back at them again. Like, we are in the middle of the plot, let the plot happen. But
to me, it was part of the plot. Like, she turns into a puppet during it. Like, he goes into his puppet vision, but he's able to control it. I don't know. It feels like it serves some plot purpose in there, but maybe I'm wrong.
Yeah, I can see your point. But again, like, my novel does allude to a lot about that, but as I said, I don't describe
a base life. You're the man.
You
get it.
I don't describe fully fledged scene like that because I don't feel like it's that important. Just alluding and mentioning it, I think, is enough. But sometimes showing it's fine. Again, Eyes Wide Shut was well made, but Gen Z is the bad example, I think.
It's hard for me to kind of pin you down because like I thought for sure that you would be totally opposed to Eyes Wide Shut because there are quite some gratuitous scenes, but apparently it's tasteful in that way. So I'm trying to figure you out, sir.
That's a drama. So again, I will try to expand on what I already said. Eyes Wide Shut is a drama about relationship. That's the plot. That's the connection between character. That's the story. That's the goal, like trying to find that common ground in the end of the movie. That's what's going on. Gen V, the plot is like student having superpowers in a world of superpowers. Now you said it. Oh, student do F around.
Teens away
But
from home for the first time with
yeah,
superpowers.
yeah,
So
but
I don't know. It still feels like it would be an aspect of life. And then one kid can't control his powers necessarily, and when his emotions take control, he starts seeing everyone as puppets and can apparently rip people in half. But during this moment where he's losing control, he has control in a different way. Um, I don't know. I think I could make the argument that it has something to do with the plot, but I understand what you're saying.
and like I there was a scene like that in a later episode I did like, and it wasn't an issue for me because I could blink and miss it. That's the other thing. That's what I really push for, Um, so yeah, another example, I said it, Jessica Jones is another show where part of that main character aspect and growth is relationship with others. Um, so yeah, like there are examples
Didn't we
that
though? Is there any other way that you would have known that she gets small? I don't think there is any other way. I think it was the only option.
yeah.
You know what's funny though? Before we say, like, think of it. The people who usually write stuff now are the same people who grew up in roughly, I would say, same era of Twilight, 50 Shades of Grey, Sex in the City at times, and then there was others. And they want to reinforce a strange purity spiral now? You gotta
Yeah.
think of it like, I usually think of it as radicals eat their own mentality.
Fact.
Because go back to it, because this is a tradition at this point
Yeah.
of it's been that way. Like, you ever want to see what's funny is it's like everyone goes, manga's winning. Well, okay. They read more manga now. But never let it be not said. A lot of people that are in there and artists, they're not as Puritan. So they don't get it. Then again, it's like the whole thing. So it's just different standards. Now, I will say certain people like this, like put out an article. I'm familiar with this, but a lot of it misconstrue it because some people don't pursue relationships when they're younger.
Yeah.
Because there's this whole thing that's been happening with this generation is they're not only are they not doing prom, they're not dating in high school either. They're just having careers. There are certain women who or girls who overvalue themselves and or don't do the same. They're like, I'm not going to be in a relationship. Okay. And then they don't wind up dating or doing anything. And then when sometimes they want to start dating, they meet these people with drastically high standards or they're awful. And they might not just be, they're not asexual or nothing. They just choose not to be. They take themselves out of the dating market. That's what psychology is finding now.
Yeah.
There's a whole psychology study to this currently. Like, if you're wondering, there's a psychology study. Like, I'm trying up your alley if you ever want to find this.
So, just before we click play, I wanted to invite again A-Base. You got the link. If you want to come, you always get the link. I forgot.
He's the man, but he's a busy man. One
know.
day he may grace us with his presence, but
Maybe
He
next
has the
month.
link. He has the
he
link.
does. But yeah, I guess continue on while
Yeah.
Tiamat's kind of looking for that study.
Yeah, you can.
No,
take-
no, I'll have to. You know what? The subject is interesting. I'm surprised he's never heard of it. See, they socialize. Well, that's different though, Patrick. Because especially when you come back, we have specials lined up we want to do. But no, it's a real study. Like, not the lack of like socializing versus just it's a change. They approach it different. Younger couples that are getting married now have less sex.
Yeah.
They
How are you measuring?
people do these studies.
Yeah, there's lots of studies.
Basically, you got to
about-
think of it as what's happening to the Western. So basically, what's happening to the Western world is what's happened to. Just look at what happened to Japan. Very much the Japanese, the birth rate declined. The stuff went to the people worked. Maybe the wives raised the kids, because years and years ago they feared meats. Do either of you know what meats are?
Yeah.
I know our traditional, like, get it from the butcher meats,
Meats.
but
Meats.
what do you mean by meats?
MEET.
MEE.
Neat.
Oh,
Okay.
meeting people.
Meaty. Meats were like what you. Not Patrick. That's not what this is. So they feared.
Not that type of meat.
They
I
feared
gotcha. The other meats.
They feared this as a rise. These were people not going to school, content with just basic ordinary lives. And the Japanese really, you need to have a higher drive. They started to accept them more. Like, they're not going to seek higher education. Best that they're going to do is probably something average. And it doesn't meet the excellent standards, if that makes sense. Does that make sense?
It does.
Now, it basically is, there's a term. It means like something not basically it's a complicated way of saying, shorter way of saying it. But that's more accepted now. You see that more because it was stigmatized. Because you didn't want to be that way. You wanted to be successful. Now a lot of them just literally work. They'll get into these relationships, some that get married, or they don't know how to express to each other. One of the best leading causes of death in Japan is just overworking yourself.
Yeah.
And dying. So like the death of the mangas and animes with the death of the salary man is actually a real thing. You know.
That's true.
This is what's happening over to the Western world. They don't pursue it sometimes. I mean, that's why their birth rate's declining, their fertility rate's going down.
Yeah.
It's actually, and it's kind of like we import culture to them, they import culture to us. Or there's a whole bunch of people who were in the millennials, they didn't want to have kids. So they passed that attitude down to their children.
And yet they still don't wear dame protection. It's like, bro.
You know what's funny? No, because if you look at this, right? There's a person, she's in my age group. She's my same age. She makes a lot of money a year. She never wanted to have kids.
Then don't do this. I mean, it's easy.
She got married, I guess reluctantly, but she never wanted to have any kids. It's like, I'll have that, but it's like, okay. Or they believe, because there's part of it too, they've ingrained the idea of overpopulation and stuff into this current generation.
You know how many spaces are empty? It's like, bro.
Look at the thing is, what you're looking at is you're looking at like Japan, right?
Yeah.
Because Japan, old people are doing the jobs.
Yeah.
It's actually happening in China because the Chinese actually had to repeal their one-child policy.
And on top of that, like, how can we like sustain that stupid inflation that I truly ate? And like, we need kids, guys. We need people to pay the debt. Anyhow, we go off track now. I guess we can click play.
This part of the study. And he replied and said, also, why are they surveying 10-year-olds for this? So you go back to the original tweet, 10 to 24.
This I agree. Why are you asking kids like that? I'm wondering. I'm really wondering. You guys have any theory on that?
Well, I'm sure there's just an age range. I'm sure no matter where you put it, like if you put it as like 15 to 24, wouldn't somebody be like, why are you asking 15-year-olds about sex? I get what she's saying. Like, it does seem arbitrary. I don't think I'd want to talk to 10-year-olds about
Me
it.
neither.
But at some point, like, I feel like in these societal studies, you know, like you're going to have some sort of cutoff range. So I don't know.
Like my younger sister is like, maybe I lost track of her age. I know my oldest brother age, but the youngest sister I lost track of her. But I think she was around like 8 or 9, and I would find that very weird that some random adult just comes to her and asks her that kind of question. I would be like, bruh, who are you? It's like that feels very off-putting, I think. And even my older brother, which is he is much older than her, and I would still find that very weird that someone come to him and ask him that. But yeah, maybe it's because people don't have filter, or I don't know. I don't know. It's weird. Anything else to add before we click play?
No, it is kind of a weird age range. I just, again, I'd want to know a little bit more about the study, like where they're getting it, like how exactly they're doing it and what the questions are. But yeah, that is an interesting point to bring up 10-year-olds in a study
Huh.
to do with sex.
You
Yeah.
think that's
It
weird?
is kind of interesting.
Yeah.
No, I agree. It's
10-year-old?
weird, but no.
I was like, are you often surveying 10-year-olds about sex? Because that's
I may
But,
call
yeah.
some-
About
some
other
of-
stuff, I understand, but about
For,
that, like,
they do survey kids for like strange things because if you think children are the cultural zeitgeist of the era, like, okay, Gray, you're familiar? Are you familiar with story of Seinfeld talking to his daughter about sexism?
No. No.
So
why don't you enlighten me?
So basically, Seinfeld, of course, you know he is. Probably jokes the same with his thing, but safe around the thing. His daughter one day goes to him and makes a joke. He makes a joke and she goes, "That's sexist." He breaks mode for a section for his segment thing, and goes, "Where'd you hear that was sexist?" It's taught to me in school, and other friends say that.
okay.
And he proceeded to had to tell her that's not sexist, and then that actually woke him up to not be to what schools and other stuff in TikTok was doing to the generations.
Brain rot. I ate TikTok.
It's literally like the whole concept of, they if you're going to indoctrinate kids, you indoctrinate them younger, and then they don't know what's really going on. It's really weird like that. So when you see these studies, because you're not going to convince a person, it's kind of like the line from The Matrix. Usually we don't pull out older minds because they're too used to The Matrix.
Yeah.
And it's a concept of, as well as people don't change when they're older. Once they reach a certain point, they're not going to change. But there's also
Well,
this.
It will be harder, but people do change.
Yeah, I
But
don't know,
it'll be
man.
harder
I've
as
made a
you get
lot of
older.
changes recently. I
It's
don't know.
just
I
harder.
think I'm older, but yeah. But you're just so unaware when you're younger. I don't know. I know I was definitely more headstrong and sure of myself in my early 20s, and I was wrong about a lot. So I don't know. I'd like to think I'm a much different person, but
That's true.
I want to applaud you for not doing a Seinfeld impression when you're like, "Where did you hear that?" I don't know. I just would have assumed you would go with the Seinfeld impression, but good job, sir.
That
Oh
is
my.
a wild age
This
range.
thing-
Like, I get that they're trying to survey Gen Z, but
Can
asking
you
10-year-olds
pause? I'll
about sex
address
scenes,
that.
my jaw.
I'd say 11 or 12. Well, it depends. In a guy case, 11 or 12 is more appropriate than 10. But again, that goes back to more like that weird person is asking weird question to my kid. That's more like my issue with this than the question themselves. But I'd say with a woman, it's more like when she got her first period and stuff. But yeah, it's really the fact that some adult asks that kind of question to kids that feels really off-putting, I think.
I
Anyhow,
don't know. I wonder about like the accuracy of survey data. I just know like if somebody gave me like a survey at like 10 and was asking me like, do you think about sex or like your opinions, that like there's no way they're getting an honest answer about it. Or like when I'm going
yeah,
through puberty, if they ask me like how many times I'm thinking about it, I'm not going to be honest with them.
true.
You know, I assume I would be broken if I was honest with them.
I
But
agree. I agree.
Look, it's kind of
so
like
I,
in
I
the.
don't know.
No, you got to think of it in the era, too. There sometimes it's off. See, when we talk about GTA coming up, love or hate GTA, but it is going to be the most highly talked about video game for a while because of it shows Florida Man bad and a bunch of Florida craziness, all duplicated from TikTok videos, was all in that trailer, or stuff. And people thought, I think I see it in my mother sometimes too. She's like, "You say that because of video games and stuff," and I'm like, "No, no," because it's like the idea. Oh, if you let your kids play GTA or read a Harry Potter book, they're gonna worship the devil or want to go shoot people up.
I rarely worship the devil, and I've only stolen a few cars, so I don't know. That doesn't seem to hold out.
But no, there's a whole like little thing about that, like a nice little hidden history, and that's really, really funny about that.
I guess we can play now.
Dropped. And of course, this set people off. Somebody said, if 10-year-olds can affirm their gender, surely they can have an opinion on sex scenes in movies. Which is sadly very true. Somebody else said, I had to do a
Living
double take there.
vicariously through
Asking
your
10-year-old
children.
if you're okay with watching sex scenes is wild. When I was 10, all I cared about were Saturday.
I do have a question for you guys. So, I don't know. I remember like when I was a kid, when I did used to watch movies where they had like a romantic scene, like not necessarily a sex scene, but it's like, they were making out or whatever. I do remember like this impulse to just like cover my eyes. Like perhaps that was weird, perhaps that was me, but I don't know. Like there was definitely an age where it stopped being like so like off-putting to me. I don't know. It is kind of interesting. It seems like there wouldn't be that much of an issue with trying to figure out that information, but like at what time is society changing that like this is now earlier or something like that. But
It's strange.
I don't
The
know. It seems
concept of
interesting.
there's
I would not want to be
actually,
the
I think I
researcher for
saw, I actually saw this. It may have been a repost of a tweet or something. Dark, guess because of bad, like Twitter is really like a strange place. Someone brought up a tweet, right? Goes, recently my kid heard her husband's, me and my husband having sex, and he got really scared. Right? The kid's like
Okay.
younger, sound or whatever. And then the question came up as well. It's kind of like, oh, or they heard it from another room. It was like, and he thought his mother was being beaten or something. It's like, what? Like, it's like a weird like thing with like that would come up, you know. And the child's probably younger, right? Just you don't think about it, but
I'd
then
say I'd say great way of approaching that at that age is normal, and it should be the way because you're not at the right age to like think of that.
Well, I think we all kind of naturally go through that where like you're kind of,
I
you know,
was
like you're
a
not
messed
interested
up
in it. Seems
kid.
kind of
I was a
weird.
messed up kid, and my experience was different. That's why I say gray experience is better. But um, let's say I was a messed up kid, and that's as far as we can go. Like my experience is very different than yours, and I'd say
Fair enough.
mine was not the typical one, and I wouldn't say it's the right one. But your reaction was like the one that's natural and fine, I think.
So I wouldn't want to have like this researcher's job where you're like asking 10-year-olds like specifically questions about that, but I don't know. I could see where it could be nice to have this sort of data so you could see if there is like a societal shift. Like, you know, it used to be like kids under the age of 10 were not interested, but now kids like, you know, way under the age of 10 are interested. It seems like it could help us on a societal level to know information like that. But
Depends what
I don't know.
age,
It still seems weird. Yeah,
because
it's just I would not want that job.
when you're younger, right and wrong is very blurred, and it's really are like your moral campus is weird. Your parents must have strong morals for you to have strong morals, if you know what I mean. Um, so I don't think the earliest is the better. I really don't think so. I think there's a right time and a right age. I'd say again, for a woman that's on the first period. For a man, I think it's a bit later because it's normal. Like we are a bit like we are a bit retarded. Let's be honest. Like we grow up for longer than women. They have their push earlier than us, but their push is not as big as ours. So I'd say like 11, 12 is more suiting for a man, but the moment like the girl as her first period, I think it's the right time to address that. But again, a guy is more like 11 or 12 years old. That's the right age, I'd say. Um, so yeah. Okay, that's very interesting. Um,
That makes sense. That's somewhere around what I remember. But I don't know. You know, it might be good to have some data to find out, like, you know, is this happening like way younger than it used to? But I don't know.
if
Like,
it's
it does seem
happening
like,
way younger, it's because the parent did something wrong. That's how I see it. Um, and let's be honest, there are some parents that do things wrong, and it's normal because we are a human being. Uh,
hey, it's okay. I mean, let's be clear. I grew up in the era back when Bill Clinton changed the meaning of OS to not being sexual at all. So,
and I'd say like if they ask you a question, don't lie to them, but like try to keep them away from that as long as you can. And 11 is seems fine for boys, and if your daughter in some extreme cases are like
okay.
9 or 10 years old and they
Multi,
have their
wait,
first
Multi
period,
and Gray,
it's the time.
question.
Yeah.
When did you have your? When did they do the sex ed condom explanation in school? What grade?
um
actual condoms for me, I think it was like 8th grade or something like that. There was a maturation program when I was like in 6th grade or something.
There's like a
where they basically
video,
just said like
and then there's the
women. No,
whole.
so that didn't even happen until like junior high for me. They didn't do like any sort of video. Like they sat us in like the auditorium and basically said like women will go through these changes. They'll grow boobs. Then they explain pubes. that's about it. Like, really, mine was really subpar. What age was yours, out of curiosity, or what grade?
That was a weird one. Okay, so we had biology courses. Our first biology courses was in high school year 2, so that would be like ninth grade based on America, because we got 6 years of elementary school and 5 years of high school. So I think that would be the ninth year for you guys, but that wasn't really the ninth year for me. That was like secondary year 2. But I got the condom talk much later, which was really weird because we had biology course. They had like basic like way to like protect ourselves in that case, but they were not really going into detail. They were just saying this how we stop that, and it's really like high school year 4, so that would be like your 10th year, I believe, based on your system. We
so
had
that
that
seems
deeper
about
talk.
how that kind of seems about the age group. I think ninth, somewhere there, they teach you things like, oh, what is STDs, like brief overview, right?
That would be on your 10th year, basically. Well, on my system
Yeah.
of me, that was high school year 4.
I mean, Patrick's older than us, and probably is slightly. Yeah, yeah.
So that was a really weird case where we had biology first and like STDs and protection, the true importance of protection much later. So yeah, I do agree with that comment. Asking 10 years old if you're okay with watching a bedroom fun scene is wild. Like, bro, like it's it's not even in your family. It's like stranger, and even in your family, that's weird if you're not the parents. I feel like the parents should be the first one to really talk about that, and sometimes some parents are not necessarily comfortable talking about that to 10 years old. So yeah, I don't know. I just don't see myself asking that kind of question to kids. Maybe make the parents ask the kids. That would be more appropriate. But even there, it's not that appropriate because these are our kids, and that's
Oh,
none of
come
your
on.
business.
Like, I don't know if I would be honest with my parents at that age, but yeah, I don't know. Again, I can't think that the survey thing would be the best way to collect the data, but
True.
who knows? I don't know. I'm not sure of
I
what the
agree.
best way would be, and I really don't want that job.
Me neither. You gave it to me. I dropped the project. I stepped away.
I failed again. I don't know.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I guess you can play.
Saturday morning cartoons, which Benke has brought back, guys. If you want to get it, you can get Benke.
It's chiller time!
Never thought about it, and I had no clue what it was. But of course, that is not the world that we live in now. They are able to ask children these types of questions because of the things that 10-year-olds are exposed to today. So I shouldn't even be surprised that the academics did the survey in this manner with 10-year-olds when this is literally being taught in our government schools. That is the new normal. Another person commented and said, because they don't view sex as about creating a family. They only see it as entertainment. So it does not occur to them that it is wrong to have it with children. They recognize that only conservatives, especially religious ones, oppose sex with kids. They don't understand why. Sad.
So I don't consider myself a religious person. Well, actually, I'm not. I don't believe in anything because if you do believe in something, that means something else is wrong. And I don't want to tell people, you're wrong. And I'd say, yes, I have some conservative value, but I'm not a conservative. Like, there's a lot of conservative stuff I don't give a crap about. Like, I know all diversity is important and that kind of stuff. And equal rights is essential and important. So yeah, I think it's really weird to say that only religious people would have my thought process, where I think it's just wrong to talk about that kind of stuff to kids that are not your own. Maybe I'm crazy. I don't know. What about you, Drake?
No, I think this is a crazy comment. Like, I don't know. First off, it's so much black and white thinking. It's because they don't view sex as about creating a family. So, sex isn't just about creating a family. That is one result from it. But I don't know. And then to go with the black and white thinking again, that they only see it as entertainment. Could they not see it as a form of entertainment, a form of exercise, a form of bonding, but also a way to create a family? I don't think either of those have to be so black and white. And then, so it does not occur to them that it's wrong to have sex with children. That's so fucked up. I really don't know who is saying that it is okay. Like, there might be a very, very, very slim portion of people who are messed up who are saying that, it's not wrong. Everybody else is saying, yes, it's wrong. Consent matters. Laws matter. This isn't okay. I don't know. Perhaps they're seeing a slippery slope where I'm not seeing one, but I don't know. This guy, this Anthony O'Bara, I just see so much cognitive distortion in what he's actually saying here. I really can't agree with any part of what he's saying. I don't think he understands.
So I will add a bit more to this. Like, in my big family, I won't give away too many detail, but there's that younger family member than me, and that younger, I won't mention any age there, but that younger person didn't add proper explanation on bedroom fun and how to protect yourself, consent, and all that kind of stuff. And he is coming at that age where he should know that kind of stuff, or she should know that kind of stuff. But the parents are like, yeah, we are not comfortable talking about it. So, like, the best thing you can do in that case is talk to the parents and tell them maybe it's time. Like, you need to put that taboo aside and talk to your kid about that. But that's not your place to, like, tell the kids yourself, because that's not your kids, and you can, like, create damage in the family unit there. So that goes back to what I said, that the parents should be the one that kind of address that. But maybe I'm crazy. Maybe I'm crazy. I don't know. What do you think of that, Dre?
I don't think that's what makes you crazy. I think that's a reasonable position, for sure.
Talk to the parents, and that's the
Yeah.
job to do that. And it's important for kids at some point. So you cannot, like, do it yourself, because again, that will damage the family unit more than it will help. But yeah, that's how I see it. Like, doing that kind of survey will raise some question. Maybe the kid didn't add. That's the other issue with it. So, D-Lord, any thought before we move on?
It's fine. It's all fine.
Recognize that only
so you can-
conservatives, especially religious ones, oppose sex with kids. They don't understand why. Sad, but true. But then, interestingly, you get into the article and you read the details about the report, and they sing a totally different tune. It was important to them to note that even though they said they surveyed 10-year-olds, that they had that 10 to 24 gap, they actually only asked 13-year-olds about these sexual topics. So then why did you promote your survey by saying that you surveyed 10-year-olds about sex scenes? The whole thing is just very weird, but here's what they said. While 1,500 young people were surveyed for the full report with 100 participants from each age bracket from 10 to 24, only 13 to 24-year-olds were asked about topics relating to sex and romance. So at least that's a win, because a 10-year-old and a 13-year-old are developmentally very, very different.
True.
And even though I don't even think you should be asking 13-year-olds about sex, they are technically a teenager that makes a little...
So this, I disagree with her. Like, 13, it's a bit, like, it's right into it. Like, I won't say it's too late, but that's, like, the right moment. Because at that age, other kids will already be exposed to that at some point. So you won't be the first gateway to that topic. The kids,
from my limited experience as a teen, by 13, like, it definitely was already around. Like, you you already had like that maturation program or whatever. It's not going to be their first introduction to it. I don't know. I just don't think too many people learned about sex from a survey, but still, that is kind of weird that they did mark it as 10 to was it 24-year-olds? I can't remember the exact
24.
range, but why would they do that instead of saying like this section was 13 to 24-year-olds?
Maybe
I don't know. It just seems like an interesting range.
Maybe to provoke people, maybe to like add drama to drama, and maybe they could not find.
So why don't they say 0 to 24-year-olds? Like, wouldn't that be even more drama and even more provoking? Like, I don't know. Just
maybe you brought a good point. Maybe the parents were like, yeah, my 10 years old was an option, but I don't want him to be part of that. Maybe that's the thing. And good job on the parents. And I hope if you said that to the survey people, I hope that you had the talk with the kids after that, so that kind of situation doesn't come back. But anyhow, that's very interesting. I think it's to have attention. That's the biggest thing that come to my mind. Any thoughts, D-Lord? I guess not. D-Lord.
Moving on.
A little more sense than asking a 10-year-old about sex. Now, I personally obviously agree with the results of this study.
I actually forgot to mention something else. Like at 13, most women already had their period, and at that point, you need to talk about that to your kids. Like, again, if you know a kid like that, talk to the parent and not the kid that's in their place to do that. But like, better like sooner than later, as we say. Like, yeah, that's how I see it. And 13, usually you're already a teenager at that point. Like, biologically speaking, like only biology talking is like 11 or 12 years old. You're considered to be like a young teenager. And like 10, 11 is like preteen. And yeah, like psychology has that covered, oh my, A-based. I guess you can play.
It's different. It happens at different times for different people, based.
We can't play.
Because I think that sex scenes have gotten absolutely out of hand in Hollywood. They are frequent, they are graphic, and unnecessary to the plot usually. So the fact that my generation and I can agree on this is incredibly positive in my book. Just to put it simply, we are done with the slapping of meat, unless it is the sound of a Good Rancher steak hitting the grill. Now, there's a lot of steak this November, so do not be chicken and shop at the grocery store like usual. Instead, head over to Good Rancher. Their Black Friday Your Way sale is already live, and it is something that you do not want to miss. They have great meat puns, but they have even better meat. This November,
And
you get to pick your favorite meat and get free for a year. You can pick a free year of steak, salmon, chicken, or bacon when you subscribe to any box right now. And better yet, when you subscribe to any box on goodranchers.com, you will not only get a free year of meat of your choosing worth up to $480, but you will also get $15 off with code Cooper. The only big deal your grocery store has is on expiring food. So ditch the meat aisle and subscribe at goodranchers.com today. To claim your year of free meat, $15 off, and free shipping, go to goodranchers.com and use my code Cooper at checkout. Again, that's promo code Cooper at goodranchers.com so that you can skip all of that nasty, grotesque grocery store meat. But anyway, back to the report. They brought up a few of the shows that most normal people across the world have found absolutely grotesque, and in my opinion, have probably spurred some of these anti-sex scenes attitudes, like Euphoria and The Idol, which are both from HBO. And then they brought up a quote from actor.
So The Idol has been called out by A Based Life, his favorite show ever, and nothing is gratuitous in that one. It is just very tasteful. I think it might be right up your alley, Multi.
Oh, that's fine. Well, what are these shows? I've heard about these.
So they're over the top. It's all about over-sexualized young people, if you will. With The Idol, for instance, I don't think they even wear clothes in most of it, from how A Based has kind of described it. And I believe it's Johnny Depp's daughter too, or something like that. And then Euphoria is kind of like that, but a lot more.
I
drugs.
have heard I've heard similar things, but not the way he described it. It is
I will
It
stay
makes
away
Game
from
of
that.
Thrones look tame.
so
Really?
it's just if you ever wonder
Wow.
some of the series, like especially if it's on HBO or such, it I want to say The Idol is about a person who wants to become famous, and you can get the idea.
I think I will stay away from that then.
I don't know. You might want to just check and make sure that it's not something you'd enjoy. But you never know. I hear it's done tastefully.
Okay. I guess you can play this.
And singer Olivia Rodrigo, this is a quote that she gave in an article recently, and they were asking her about whether she was interested in seeing Euphoria or Idol, and she said, I don't have the desire to. I remember walking out of Barbie and being like, wow, it's so long since I've seen a movie that is female-centered in a way that isn't sexual or about her pain or her being traumatized. And I don't even think that we need to boil it down to being female-centered. I would just say a movie or show that's directed at young adults and very culturally relevant. Like, it's just been a while since we've seen a project like that is not super sex fueled, unlike HBO's Euphoria, which, by the way, one writer called a pornographic after school special with no goal other than to desensitize its audience. And I could
Okay,
not.
pause.
So that was kind of a base review of it as well. But I don't know, like, how many teen things have been like. There's so many. Like, we just went through this craze of Hunger Games, and what was the other one? Like Annihilation. There were like 4 teen dystopia dramas that were all like The Maze Runner, all these. Sorry, had to cough there. I don't think any of those were like especially like sexualized or sexually charged or anything like that. I think it's just a different type of show. And again, I would say Euphoria isn't necessarily for kids or for teens. It does have to do with, I believe, somebody in high school or a bunch of people in high school. So I could understand how that would be appealing to them. But I don't know. I can't see this as directed towards them. Like, I wouldn't say Game of Thrones is directed towards teens. Like, are a bunch of them going to want to watch it? Yes. But that doesn't mean that it's for them or directed towards them. I don't know. There's just some framing in this that I don't feel is like quite honest. But that being said, it's not a show that I would seek out or probably enjoy. But who knows? I could be wrong.
Okay.
I must investigate.
I'm curious. Maybe you defended this enough for me to at least look at it, and out of curiosity, I guess you can play now.
Agree more. And this is not what young people want to see anymore. Like, not everything needs to be over sexualized. We're done with that. And I think in a way, we have been desensitized to all the sex. So now everything just looks and feels fake and disingenuous. And we know that they are only doing it for the shock value. Like, it is so blatantly clear because it often has no connection to the plot and literally
shock value, Gen V. Like, they did so many things only for shock value. And even the boys did that, but not necessarily like with bedroom fun stuff. But that's the trend. I'm curious. Okay. Well, he is 16. I think 16 is a proper age. You're more mature at that point. You're almost an adult. But yeah, that's good to know. I guess you can play now.
really does not do anything for the characters. We see through it and we want something that is more real. Like friendship and platonic relationships. Like, that is what we are missing because it's been so long since we've just seen anything like
platonic is real, it's true, but also loving relationship can also be as true and meaningful as platonic friendship. I just don't see how platonic relationship are better than loving relationship. I will always consider both equals. What do you think of that, Gray?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't disagree. It would also be nice to show, like role models, but it kind of depends what the story is. Like, if the story is about an assassin or something, I don't know that I necessarily want them being like as like relatable as possible. Like it really depends what story you're trying to tell. I think, instead of dictating like all entertainment must have good representation, it's like, well, no, sometimes you do want like the anti-hero. Sometimes you want the person who has just made every mistake that they could have. And then you can, from there, build them up. But I don't know. It depends. Like I do want my villains to be villains. So you're going to have to show them, being unkind to people. They're probably not going to have, loving family relationships.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean that that's encouraging, horrible family dynamics or anything like that. It's just yet another way of showing the whatever, if you want to use a shitty metaphor, like the tapestry that is the world we exist in. There are going to be bad people who do bad things. That doesn't mean that it's necessarily encouraging that. And sometimes you want a flawed character who is going to make the mistakes. There's been a lot of really flawed characters who have really bad relationships with like their kids. That doesn't make me like the character less. It makes me wish that they would do different choices. And, maybe their arc is they will progress into that. So I don't know. It just kind of depends what you're talking about. Like, sorry, a base life always makes me laugh. I lost my train of thought on that one. But I don't know. It's just kind of interesting. You're right. Like I would want to see good depictions, but I just fear where that comes when you somehow give like some dictate as to like what entertainment is acceptable. I don't know. I've gotten some really good messages out of seeing people do really wrong things. I don't know. Sometimes the impact of that is what gives you the lesson.
I agree.
So, I don't know. I'm just not sure that they're connecting that it's, this gratuitous sex and it's like Game of Thrones or Euphoria or The Idol that's making our society messed up and not want sex. Maybe. But again, I'd have to go back to like Europe. Like, there's famous nude beaches in Europe. After midnight, there's just like straight up porn on TV. I don't feel like they're lacking sex or anything like that. I think it's something to do with the way that we treat it. I don't have all the answers or anything like that, but it could have something to do with this taboo that is the reason why they're pushing the envelope and making it gratuitous, and then maybe that's turning people off. But I don't know that it's just our entertainment is turning people off. I think it's a much bigger problem than just Euphoria. But perhaps I'm wrong.
You're making good points. And to go back in Europe, like when you really look at it, they don't really showcase that much nudity the same way like American do, like Game of Thrones, Euphoria, and the others. But as you said, it's not taboo, so I guess it's normalized. That's why they don't feel the need like they to showcase that. I think that's the biggest difference. They don't feel the need, but again, if you go there, family unit is a mess. It's wrecked. It's destroyed. Like, good luck finding like families that are still together. Like, the divorce rate is high there, as high as anywhere else. Let's say like as high as Canada or USA. So it doesn't help at all. Anyhow, do you have something to add more, D-Lord?
Nope, I'm good.
Okay, you can.
Moving on.
That. And I would say that we can absolutely connect this to the decline in hookup culture with Gen Z. We talked about this a lot more back in 2022, but here's a headline to jog your memory. Hinge survey says that Gen Z is over hookup culture post-COVID. And this article went on to say farewell to hookup culture, and they're talking about finding the right person. And overwhelmingly, they said,
I don't think so. Not based on my experience, or maybe that's the Quebec factor and we will be over it in a few years because we are stupid. But in my experience, hookup culture is still around, it's still a thing, and it's sad. But again, maybe it's the Quebec factor.
It could be age range and everything too. But there is kind of a point that they're making with this. Overwhelmingly, they're looking for somebody who they share a deeper connection with. Yeah, maybe people are getting over this whole hookup thing. Like maybe there is a reason why there is a tradition of, courting somebody, getting to know them, and then trying to, make connections, making sure that you're compatible. maybe there's something more than just looking at a picture of them and reading like 3 lines that they put there and
Yeah,
then deciding if you're a match or not for the evening. Maybe there is more to it.
like I ate hookup culture again. I'm all in for a connection, but based on what I've seen, it's not happening where I am. People don't care about the connection. They don't. But again, that may be the Quebec factor where we always get stuff later than you guys. So maybe in a year or two, things will get better for us as well.
Well, I'm sorry. You guys are going to get COVID soon then. I really appreciate your willingness to take that disease from us. But yeah, maybe post-COVID, you guys will get over that too. Yeah, I don't know. Like, I think perhaps also people are at certain times in their lives, like to say like in your early 20s, you'd be more interested. I know I was more interested in hookup culture when I was young. Now that's not what appeals to me. Perhaps people are also making a change. I wonder if the demographic of the people on their app has changed over time or not. Just interesting.
Yeah. I know I wasn't. I was never really well. I was like that in my teenager year, but I was too weird to have success in that department. But anyhow, we can move on, I guess.
Said that the right person would be somebody with whom they share a deeper connection. Over half of Hinge users reported that their relationship goals had changed since the pandemic. They are now looking for a long-term, serious relationship. And all of this is very consistent with what we're seeing. Like Gen Z has a
Couldn't that also be consistent with, kind of what you get at like every Armageddon movie or every, world-ending catastrophe? All of a sudden, people just start hooking up. Isn't that kind of what COVID was? Like, could people have not been in a more short-term mindset during that time? I don't know. It's just an interesting point in time to use as a reference from then to now. You mean like when the entire world was threatened by this global disease, people weren't thinking long-term relationships? I know I wasn't thinking like what's going to happen 5 years from now. I was thinking like, hey, all the toilet paper's gone. Like what the hell? Like I don't know. It was different.
But I think the other thing is they were stuck with one person, and if they leave that person, they would be alone, and they were afraid of being alone. That may be another factor. They're like, "Oh yeah, it's him or nothing,"
Yeah, for sure.
and it's sad when it's
lot of
like
problems.
that. It's sad, but it's the truth.
I'm the first to say that. I know we have our issues. But on a whole, we are searching for real, meaningful connections, whether that is romantic or not. I think that we have been totally numbed by the digital age and over-sexualization and poor socialization even before COVID, before being locked in our homes, and it has obviously taken a toll on us. So I admire my generation for being self-aware and admitting that what we're seeing is just not working.
Okay, I guess that's done. That was a very interesting video. Thank you for picking that one. I
Yeah.
had not seen it actually. That's one of the few I had not seen.
Yeah, neither had I. It just kind of appealed based on some of our previous conversations. I thought maybe it might be right up your alley, but apparently it is a bit different. But yeah, that was interesting. I don't know. I guess I wish I would have watched it before, and maybe I would have looked up some of the data myself just to see some of the methods and kind of what they're doing. But I'm glad that she did kind of bring up that age breakdown because that was kind of interesting. I don't know. I just think there were some kind of assertions that were made without like complete proof, but I don't know. I'm wondering if it truly is that people are completely less interested, or perhaps this like in your face brand of over sexualized TV isn't that appealing. Like I don't know.
Yeah.
I wonder, could it be cyclical?
Maybe pinpoint a way, or maybe she is pushing what a lot of people are pushing on the right leaning sphere. That's the other thing. Again, I wish that was true, but I haven't seen it. So yeah, relationships are weird, and passport bros are apparently a way to escape that. So yeah, another great week. Thank you a lot, D-Lord and Gray. You guys are amazing. So yeah, I'm wondering. I will ask the both of you if any of you have any idea of a topic for the last week of December to replace the culture war, or
Hmm.
our guys have
Off the
found.
top of my head, I
Yes.
don't have one, but I feel like we could definitely come up with one. I hadn't pondered that. I might need a little bit of time to kind of come back. I'm not sure if D-Lord has a idea. He's usually pretty good off the top of the dome.
Yeah. What about you, Dean?
I'll put it in there. I'll make some suggestions. I think it just depends what you're looking for, right?
Yeah, you can put it some suggestion. That's the point. So the programmation, the planning for next week, we will cover representation in media because we haven't found our left-leaning person. And again, January will be the month we will do the culture war stream. Even if we haven't found a left-leaning person, we will still do it. It's just sad. I hope we
So
find
you're just
someone.
gonna look like Jordan Peterson trying to explain it, and then because I was gonna say, you consider, you don't like Matt Walsh, but everyone quotes Jordan Peterson.
I'm torn apart with that one. I don't know. I think he has a lot of conservative values, but I don't know. Like, I don't think what I have seen from him. I don't think he is that right leaning because he did push back against what they were doing in Canada, and I live in Canada, so I knew exactly what was going on. And Trudeau wanted a dictatorship. He is a dictator in the making, and he did pushback. He did videos. That's how I found out about him. That's how I looked at Jordan Peterson videos and stuff. So to say he's right leaning, I don't know. Um, I don't think he is left leaning for sure, but I think he is really based.
Uh,
Um,
yeah. Before you two, what do you think of him having to go to re-education camp? How did that make you feel?
Oh my! Is it re-education game? Is it the BS against gay people basically?
It was his offensive talk on Twitter. Got him against the Human Rights
He was going
Tribunal,
to
I
get
believe.
disbarred or like kicked out of his university. Then they sent him to like a re-education camp, basically.
I don't know. I don't have the detail, but
You should look into it. It's actually rather interesting. Like they're gonna take his fellowship and whatever else.
this is actually wrong. The idea of cancel culture, I think, is really stupid. It exists. That's why we apply it, but I'm against it. I think freedom of speech should exist and should be attained, and we should be able to talk about stuff without being like demonized or spit on. But again, since we can have opinion and stuff, like if you
For
have
now.
if you can trigger people, expect their answer. That's how I see it.
And if you want
But
to, the funny thing about it is, because some people didn't think about it, they were going to take trying to end his whole career and basically everything else. So.
yeah, I haven't seen
No,
that.
Patrick, it was worse. They were going to
Uh,
take his fellowship from him. They
this
were
is wrong.
like his. And there's another story in Canada as well. You should look up the story of Mark Stein.
I've heard about it. I haven't seen it, but
Basically, they tried to kick him off.
this is disgusting. Um,
The whole thing too is it's rather interesting. Now I do know of a good topic. I'll have to see if you want to cover it.
Yeah.
You could bring up the idea of in there if it's still cancel culture. Are you familiar with the bill they passed in Canada that gave the Canadian government, you're like the Canadian like PBS, basically control of almost all media.
Yeah, this was
YouTube.
disgusting.
Was
This
it
was
C19? I believe it
the
was.
I can't remember the number, but I know about that one.
And it
That was
actually,
disgusting. And this is why I say like Trudeau wants a dictatorship, and he is disgusting. I hate him. Anyhow, we are going off topic. We can still speak backstage a bit. So anyhow, that was a great stream. What do you have going on, Dre?
Absolutely nothing. Thinkers
One day-
every Thursday on that darn
one
kiddos
day you'll
channel.
have an actual
Check it
video.
out. Yeah, I'm working on some videos and they're taking way longer than I thought, and I feel like I'm going a bit insane, but good times. I'm making headway. Just the goal is so much further away than I thought. But yeah, good times. Check out that darn kiddos channel every Thursday. The Thinkers. We think about stuff. Multi's been there.
Yeah, once, and that was a great experience. If I ever get another invite, if I'm free, that would be fun again to come back. Always open for stuff, you know. But that's true. Amazing show. But that's funny because Thursdays are also complicated for me a lot because usually that's the day I do all of the stuff I need, all the show or the stuff, you know. But I can still make it time if I get the invite. Anyhow, I feel you about video making. I feel you 100%. I got many videos waiting on the pipeline, and not everything is ready. And you, D-Lord, what's going on your corner of the internet?
Nothing really, just busy ahead. Lull in my little week, and I've been trying to change some habits, but it's weird. Nothing out of the ordinary.
Failing you 100%. Anyhow, that was a great show. Thank you to both of you. And we will
man.
talk later